Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm making some Happy Meal or a birthday card. In my opinion, I'm going to use it as a birthday card, but this can be Happy Meal as well. I'm using the Blastoff Buddies by My Favorite Things and Sending You Hugs. This stamp set I bought just before Christmas, I think, and I haven't gotten around it to use it, so I'm changing that today. I have stamped out a few of these images using Gina Design's Amalgam ink onto Transotype perfect coloring paper. I'm going to use my Copic markers to color these images in, and I am really limiting myself with my Copic markers. I am using the same colors in different images just to keep it simple. The background is going to be galaxy, so that will take a lot of the attention. So just keeping it quite simple. So I am adding my first layer, and as I said in my previous videos as well, when I'm using this paper I find that I need at least 2 layers to get my blending going, sometimes even more. It depends on which combination I'm using or which color family, but yeah, that's just what works for me. But this paper, however, you can layer a lot of layers on top of it. I experienced with Nina that when I add more than 2 layers, I often have bleeding, so the ink from my markers is going outside the lines, which is not ideal, and that's not something we are going for. So that's why I really like using this paper lately. However, I'm also using Nina still, just because I'm used of it already. So if I know that I have a color family that blends really easy, I take Nina, but just also because I want to have enough of each paper, so I'm running out of Nina, so that's why I'm using the perfect coloring paper a bit more lately, and that's just how I switch between them. But whatever paper you use for your markers, there are so many papers out there, it's perfectly fine. But if you want to add lots of layers and you don't know which paper you could choose for that, then I would recommend the perfect coloring paper. So as you see here, I'm doing those planets or the moons or however you want to call them with the same colors as I did for the Big Bear. And the spaceships I'm also going to do in the same colors. So that's how I am keeping the coloring quite simple. I'm also trying to sort of let my light source be guided by those moons or planets. I'm not doing a huge or crazy shadowing thing today, but just I'm trying to have my grays a bit darker on top, because the bunny's lying on the planet or the moon. So underneath I want it to be a bit lighter. Then I sort of have already an idea on how I'm going to place everything. So I know that the light source for the Big Bear is going from the lower left. So that's why the lower left of the bear is sort of with a highlight. And that's just how I try sometimes to get my shadows right. But I don't think that you should really care about shadows all the time. Just having fun with it. Sometimes you just want the critters to highlight in the center of the card. So everything goes. As long as you have fun and you like the end result, then everything is just fine. But I just wanted to explain why I did these sort of shadow things. So onto my final spaceship. And I am using the same beachy 70s because I really like this color combination. It's not a really vibrant blue, but it's also not that dark as well. So it's just in between, just perfect. And they really blend easily. So I'm working my way from dark to lighter, and that's just how I do my Copic coloring. Nothing fancy, nothing difficult. When you're starting with Copic markers, I think you just need to adjust yourself to the tip you are working with the fact that it's an alcohol-based marker, because I wasn't used of it. I never heard of alcohol-based markers until I started this hobby. I always had other ones or water-based. So that's just what you need to get used of. And then it will go like this. Doing a bit of tip to tip for this transition between these two, and that's it. Now I'm using my colorless blender where I went outside the lines, but also for the windows of those spaceships, since there is going to be a lighter color in it, I try to have it without other colors inside. So everything colored in, taking my matching dies. You can fussy cut as well, you can use a scan and cut that you have lying around, whatever works for you. I prefer the dies, however they are quite expensive, so you just need to figure that out for yourself, what you can afford and what not. But these images, I think they are doable. When you would fussy cut just the bunny will be a bit more difficult. So I laid everything out, and now I'm using the inside of the dies to sort of trace where my planets or my moons are, just to have some sort of an idea where I might add a bit of a glow, to have that light source also in my galaxy. So this is a piece of Transotype perfect coloring paper as well, and I've die cut it using the basic rectangles by Mama Elephant. As you know me, there is some stitch detail on the edges, so I prefer to keep them white, so that's why I'm using some purple tape to mask that off. So galaxy backgrounds, I don't like making them. I must be honest about it. You never know how it's going to turn up, and you just keep going and going, and you keep adding, and you will never know until you stop adding whether it worked out or not. And I just don't like that. So I'm just doing something that I think works, but if you look back on my videos, I think I did 1 or 2 other galaxies. So yeah, I'm not really a fan, but I like how it turned out when it works out. So therefore we are doing this. But what I did first was I added some highlights with some colors that I thought were matching with my other critters or with the theme, a more masculine birthday card or a happy mail card. So I took Twisted Citron and Peacock feathers, and now I'm adding the darker blues around it. Also just making sure to blend a bit. However, I'm using the regular distress inks. I'm not using Strathmore Bristle Smooth paper, so it's not always that easy to get a nice blend. As you see here, it's really smudgy, and there are some darker areas, and then there are lighter. So yeah, we never know whether it is going to work out. So I used the chipped sapphire first, and actually it didn't went as smooth as I wanted it to, so then I took the blueprint sketch, and I just think that my chipped sapphire is a bit dry, because the blueprint sketch really worked out fine. So for my highlight behind the planets, I am using the scattered straw, as you saw me coloring in the moon and the planets, or yeah, you saw that I use some sort of a yellowish brownish color, so I didn't want to use just a yellow distress ink, and this scattered straw just worked perfect with the colors that I used with my Copic markers. So after adding all the darkness around, I prefer going back in to add more inks to the highlights, so back in with the greens, back in with the blues, And then of course, to get it a bit more dramatic, you just take black soot that you go onto the edges, or if you're working in a gradient, you go on the top or the bottom, and you add it. Then you take your blue again, blend it out, and you can just keep going back and forth. It's crazy how long you can be blending on a galaxy background. And then another thing, if you are not sure whether it worked out or not, before throwing it away, you take a white paint or gold, whatever you have that you like as stars, and you just splatter the whole background without stopping, like a crazy person. A lot of splatters. I use the Winsor & Newton designer gouache. This is permanent white. The trick to get your gouache or your paint that you are using really white and pigmented on your panel is to not dilute it too much. Just add a tiny bit of water, just one droplet, maybe add a second one, and really mix it very well, and then you will have a good thickness when you're splattering. You need to be able to splatter, of course, so that's why you dilute it, but then again, you need to keep the consistency. So just slowly add water, not a lot immediately, and add if needed a bit more. And that is my galaxy background. Now I'm also using the Sending You Hugs by My Favorite Things. It's one of those dyes that I think that you just need to have. It isn't that expensive. It isn't a dye that is completely filling your A2 size panel, so that makes it a bit cheaper. And yeah, I just think this one is like a really good basic. You can use it for birthdays, you can use it for Happy Mail, and I think price is okay. But you need to figure that out for yourself, of course. I am placing the dye as well on my panel, so I first added 2 layers of this white paper on top of each other to get some dimension, and now I cut it out of my background itself. However, I had a tiny bump in the road, so the purple tape peeled off a bit of my ink, or my paper, a bit of my paper, so I'm just blending a bit of that blue again on top of it. And then to cover it up more, because it wasn't working that well, my cover up, I'm just adding more white splatters and making sure that I have a few thicker ones on my problem area to really cover it up. And I actually think that if you wouldn't know, you wouldn't see it. Now you will see it and I will see it in the end result, but I tested it with my boyfriend and with some family members, and they didn't saw it, so it worked. So I'm just adding a few thicker splatters, and then I will set it aside a bit to dry again. And I can add my galaxy letters on top of the white ones. So this way I have it tripled up. That's a nice thickness. I don't want the sentiment to be shouting on my card. So the fact that it's running through in my background is just a nice detail, and I think with a galaxy background you put so much effort into your background, you just want it to shine. So I didn't want to have a white sentiment or a gold one, even although I love gold. I didn't want that. I'm just going for the subtle Sending You Hugs in the background. Time to add everything to my car base. I just added lots and lots of Paradise adhesive roller, and I focused on the space where I have the Sending You Hugs to just be able to inlay it and not be fussing with liquid glue. Of course, I had some spots missing some adhesive, so I just took a bit of that liquid glue and I'm just inlaying everything so that my sentiment is on top of my card. Don't forget to keep the insides of some letters, the D and the O, knitted, and I also just pop them in. And then with the sentiment on top of my card base, I can add my images. So I'm doing some liquid glue and also some thin foam squares. And then I will add some glossy accents to the windows of the spaceships. And that will be it. So I think this background turned out okay. The galaxy worked out. Again, I'm not a fan of making it. I love it when it turns out right, but I think it's a pain. It really is. So yeah, I'm not doing it often, but I'm really glad with this one. So now I am a tiny bit curious. Do you like galaxy backgrounds? And if you do, because I like them as well, do you also like creating them? Because that's something that I don't like. So yeah, I'm curious about that, so you can leave your answer in the comments if you want to. I hope that you have had already a wonderful day and that the rest of your day will be gorgeous as well. And I hope that this video was useful, that you enjoyed watching it. If you did, you can always give this one a thumbs up. That's truly appreciated. If you have any questions, you can just leave them down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time and I will be back soon with a new card. Bye!